Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, 5011 fam.
We are here.
We're
I
here
don't know
and
what
we
key
have a
that
lot
was.
to say. Y'all, we're just going to get right into it. This episode is a whole for the culture because we need to have a conversation about what's going on in
We
our
gotta talk.
country. We got to talk. So y'all, thanks for tuning in. DDJ here doing what we do, having conversations that spark conversation. Follow us on all the social medias. Y'all know we're going to get through all of that because this conversation is so
Period.
necessary right
Because
now.
we ain't got time for
So
none of that right now.
let's get into it. Okay, so as you can tell, me and Dee have already been we've been talking about this for a solid several minutes at this point, because before we could even get into the recording of it, we just each had so much to get out of the heart, to
Yes.
get out of the mind, to get just off the chest about what's going on. And we're going to hop right into it because it's so important, y'all, that we have this conversation about where our country is politically, socially, what is about to happen with this next election and why this is going to be the era defining election of
Pivotal.
what happens next.
Yes.
It's so pivotal.
That is a good phrase. Era defining.
It's
Because
an
that is
era
exactly
defining
what it is.
election because it's going to determine the trajectory of our country, what is about to happen as far as whatever, everything depends on this election. So
Yeah.
let's start with the update, with the news. As of today, because we're recording this on the day that it happened, as of
Yes,
today,
we are.
Joe Biden has stepped down and has put out a letter on Twitter, and he let the folks know, we've gotten a lot done. We did the things. I'm so proud of you, America, but I have chosen not to, seek re-election. It's just best for the party. It's best for me. It's best for y'all. I'm finna sit down. I want to thank Kamala, and he endorsed Kamala Harris, his vice president, moving forward. He said he'll address the country later on this week. Probably by the time this episode drops, he may have already, or he will be doing so. So we all need to be paying attention to what comes out of that conversation, because that too
Yes.
is going to play a role in the trajectory of our country. Y'all, shit is real right now.
Shit is real.
It's so
If
real
you
that
ain't
there's no other
tapped
way to say it.
in, listen, if you ain't tapped, this one is more real than the last time.
Then the
Okay?
last two.
The last two. Thank you.
Yes,
The
then the
last two.
last two for
Clear.
sure.
When I tell y'all, I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what you ate today. I don't care what's your favorite song. What I need you to do is be paying attention to what is going on. If you live in America,
Hmm.
I need you to be reading up and paying attention to what is going on in America right now.
Hmm.
Because we are literally at a fork in the road.
Absolute
You
fork.
got one side of the road is taking you back to the 50s. The other side of the world, the road is forward movement, innovation, continuing on to 2025 and
Hmm.
2026, and not being in the handmaid's tale.
Thank
That
you.
is the roads that we are choosing between. And if you are not a cis het white man, I need you to be tapped into what's going on and know what's going on. Okay? Because this is a pivotal
Gosh.
moment for you in
Hmm.
particular.
In
If you are a
particular,
minority, if you are a person of color, if
if you're
you are in the
disabled,
queer community, if you are disabled,
a
if
veteran.
you are a woman, if you are a
Hmm.
veteran,
Hmm.
like I need literally all of y'all to be tapped in because shit's about to get real for us if we ain't paying attention and doing what we need to do. It's
Period.
about to go downhill for all of the people we just listed if we
Period.
don't do what we need to do.
What is so interesting about this, because we're gonna break. It's so layered, y'all. This is
It's a
one of those
lot of layers.
conversations that you have to go and look into what's going on. You have to do your own research as well, because we're only going to be able to tell you from our perspective and our understanding of what's going on, our research. But each of us, it is your responsibility as a citizen. It is your
Yes,
responsibility as an adult. It is your responsibility as
yes,
someone who has a vested interest, whether or not you want it to be vested. You have a vested interest in the future of this country as a citizen here. So it is really
yes.
important that not only are you completely and entirely tapped in to what's happening, but that you are so spiritually attuned that you are
Mm-hmm.
listening to what you need to do in particular, because I think it's so important that many of us will be like, but Register to vote. I vote in every election. And we're going to say it so much throughout this episode. So if you get tired of hearing vote, get over it. Just make sure you're registered.
Just
Okay?
get over
Because
it.
this is it.
Okay.
Like, we're talking about a federal election, but your local, your state, those
Yes.
elections are just as
It
important.
starts
Those are
there.
even more important because that's
Those are more
exactly,
important.
that's the foundation. Like, we're going to get into some of the problem as to why having DJT run again for president. This is time 3, right? Isn't this time 3?
Um,
Yes, won the
yeah.
first time,
Yeah.
lost to
Lost.
Joe,
And
and is
now, for
running
whatever
now.
reason, he's back.
And so, because I don't even want to say his name, so I'm gonna stick to the DJT.
We're gonna call him inmate 62357.
Come on now, inmate
The convicted
626.
felon.
No, that's disrespectful to Stitch. Calling him inmate
Yeah, don't do me
626.
and Stitch like that.
I love some Stitch, but okay. We're going to get into some of the specifics as to why having him as president for another term, and in particular at this time, is extremely dangerous. But before we unpack more of that, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit more about why it's so necessary that Joe Biden stepped down from this reelection, because
It was going left.
it was going left. It was the debate was the debacle. Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
literally one of those things that shone a light on the state of this man's mind. And Joe Biden always, to me, was one of the funniest politicians out there. I would be
Yes,
so
he was so
tickled,
quick.
so quick. He would say something inappropriate. Like, Joe Biden was
Yes,
so
he
real.
was
He
always
was very
cussing.
real. He was always cussing. For a white man politician, he was fairly real. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he was not putting on just the airs
His
and the
debates were
things.
good to watch
His
too.
debates were, I mean, the man was low key entertaining. I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
watching Joe Biden perform,
Yeah.
and put it on. Now, who he has become, this is a man who has accomplished a lot throughout his career. Kudos to you. And I think it's so important and so vital that you chose to sit down. I do think that there are some people who wish you waited a little bit longer, some people who wish you did a little bit sooner, but the reality is it's done now. Okay? So he is sitting down. And because he is sitting down, it's so important that, since we know he's endorsing Kamala, his vice president, since we know that's happening, it's so important that we put support behind her. Like, I know that some people have varied views on
Yeah.
Kamala, and we're going to unpack that as well. We're going to talk some more about Kamala. But I do think that what's important right now is that we as a people unite and make sure we're getting those around us united and tapped in and understanding what's going on, so that we're all out voting and that we're all out making our voices heard. I think about how many of our ancestors and spear guides even died to get us the right to vote, died to get us equality, in some form of equality in the workplace. Like, our country's not where it could be by any means, but
No.
we have come away. We've come away. I don't know that I'll
We
say
have,
a
and we've been going a
long
little
way.
backwards.
We have, and we're teetering in a direction that's really dangerous. So let's talk about it. Because on the Republican side of things, we've got inmate DT, and we've got his new vice presidential running mate, JD Vance. And from what I understand about JD Vance, this man is dangerous. One thing that he's known for having said or having supported is that women who are in relationships that are unsafe should stay with their insane partners. And I'm being very particular with those words because we don't want to, don't want to trigger anybody, and definitely don't want to get pinged. But the reality is, we've got a vice presidential candidate who is definitely not senior for women. We've got a presidential candidate who has a long history of disgusting behavior, of saying some of the vilest things, of connection to minors, of all types of weird
We have a
and
convicted
lewd.
felon.
We have a convicted felon also running on that side. And it has to be what it is, because it has to be said like it is. Because if we're going to allow convicted
Yeah.
felon to run for president, then we
He
need to
needs to be
allow
able to vote
convicted felons to
also.
vote. Okay? That needs to happen. Convicted felons also need to be allowed to vote. So that's the reality of it. That's where we're sitting because, ooh, I even shiver at the idea of it happening again. But if we get a repeat, if we have any form of a replay, the danger is not just him being him and having the him next to
Hmm.
him. The danger is in legislation and this manifesto that has become known as Project 2025. And it's known as that because
Yes.
the idea is the implementation would initiate as soon as the president was sworn in. We begin immediately. And I mean, there's so, like, if you've never heard of Project 2025,
It's like
there's
30 chapters, right?
it's
Or
like
more?
900 pages. It's like 900 and something pages. It's so long. Yeah, it's like 30 chapters, but
Yes.
they break it down into like four main areas from my understanding. And we're going to talk about some of what is going on in Project 2025. This is one of the most dangerous one of those dangerous manifestos that an organization has put out. So the organization behind it is known as the Heritage Foundation. They've been around since like the 70s, and they've always been this far right, hyper Christian because y'all know I love my Christians. But for me, the
It's a
problem with
safe
hyper
space.
Christianity, like the problem with people who do things under the guise of Christianity, that gets really dangerous. It gets really dangerous because even in the good book, it talks about false prophets and it talks about things being done in God's name that are not true. So you need to be using your spiritual eyes as well as your natural eyes because our natural eyes are telling us, spidey sense, this is bad. But there's
I feel
so
like
many people
anybody
who are
with some
like,
sense, y'all better be knowing. Like, I
and
don't.
the problem with the Heritage Foundation is that they've done this before. They
Yes.
have this manifesto they put out, and they put this manifesto out maybe in the early 80s, and that was used as a major component of Ronald Reagan's presidency. He did a lot of things that they had laid out in that manifesto in ways to control the country, and in particular, low income areas, people of color, women. It is very dangerous because they are doing a repeat here. And what this looks like is, again, one of the most dangerous set of rules and laws and uh, steps backward that we've ever seen written down. It's broken up into four sections. I'm going to see if I can remember them. I know one of them is like policy, where they have all of the ideas of policy that they want to implement. There's one on personnel where they talk about, I guess, the people that are needed and the type of movement of personnel that would have to take place for it to happen. And I don't remember the other two. I think they started with P's as well, but they break it down. They break it down into these sections where essentially they have these ideas where they've taken, doctors and scientists and lawyers and all types of scholars and people who have specialized in these areas in which they're speaking, but also have these kind of loyalist alignments, and they basically come up with what they think it would take for the country to get back to where it needs to be. They're calling it the New American Revolution, and
Because
what's
we
been
need
really
another one of
interesting about
those.
this, right? Not definitely not like this. But what's so interesting about it is like it's been so closely aligned with DJT. It's been so closely aligned with him. It's been just so closely aligned with him, and people being
That's
like, if
because
he
he's
gets
a
elected, this is what's
performative
going to happen.
puppet, though.
He's
And
such a
that's what's
puppet.
dangerous. That's like the thing that I said the first time when he ran. Is like the most dangerous thing about him is that he's a political puppet. He's
Hmm.
gonna pander. He's gonna say whatever he needs to say. He's gonna do whatever he needs to do. He's gonna get shot in the ear and throw up a fist and go out like this martyr, like with this big bandage
Hmm.
on your face every day, and
So
your whole, and then now everybody's wearing bandages, which is just absolutely
redonkulous.
insane to me.
Hmm.
And y'all wouldn't wear a mask, but y'all could put that on though.
Come
Had
on
to
now.
fight you for the mask though.
Come on now.
Literally fight you to get them to put that on. That could
It's
save your life.
it's crazy because like he is now, because so many people are now finding out about Project 2025, he has now said, oh, I have nothing to do with that. That ain't me. I don't claim that. And they're saying, oh yeah, we don't claim, like, We have nothing to do with Trump. We don't, and it's like, you
Of
think that we're
course.
stupid. You think that we're stupid because we live in an era now, because of things like TikTok and Black Twitter, how we communicate and learn from one another. Because Black Twitter is not just Black Americans. It's the diaspora. Like, there's so many conversations.
Honestly, though,
Hmm.
I think he thinks that we're stupid because they elected him the first time. Like,
Yes.
he got away with it the first time. And I think he
Yes.
thinks, oh my God, they're dumb. I'm doing it again.
I'm doing it again. The last one was stolen. And it's wild because, again, there's so many people finding out about this document and learning the dangers of it. So many people breaking it down. That's why I'm like, go out and do your research, because there's so
Please.
many people breaking it down. So many
Yes.
resources that literally take the document section by section and tell you what this
Because
says
it
and what
is
it
a
means
lot.
and what this says. It's a lot, and it's overwhelming. It legit is
Hmm.
overwhelming when you just consume yourself in it, which I
Intentionally.
chose not to do. Come on now. So let's start with some of the things. This is really the importance of, like, this is why you have to vote, like, because this is the type of shit that will happen, and will happen without you paying attention, and then you wonder why you have no rights. You will be looking
There it
crazy at
is.
yourself, because this is, again, just like the mollywop we got when they reversed Roe v. Wade. This is not the mollywop that was the reversal of affirmative action in higher education. You're not paying attention, but they've been doing it. They've been
The
doing this type
mollywop
of
that is taking Black history out of schools
out of schools, and,
and
and
libraries.
eliminating critical race theory, which was, again, never something taught K through 12, always a conversation at a collegiate level, and typically in a class like psychology or sociology or anthropology, where we're studying people. That's what you do when you study people, is you have difficult conversations and realizations and epiphanies. That's how you because people are not simple. We are complex
Well,
beings.
well, they believe we're a monolith. You know, we all
That's what they
should be.
believe.
If you're a man, you should be doing X, Y, and Z, and if you're a
If
woman,
you're
you
a
should be
woman, it should
doing
be
X, Y, and Z. And that
period.
is very simple, very to the point, and that's all everybody should be doing,
And
which
we
is
should
what they're
all be
trying to get back
worshiping
to.
the same deity. We should
The
all be worshiping
same
the
one,
exact same kind of way. If you're not like us or
reading the
not from
King
here, we need to
James
get rid of
Bible
you. Exactly. So let's talk about some of what's actually happening in this document, because, okay, we've hyped it up to be the worst book ever written, but let's
because
talk
it
about
is
the reality.
better than the
One,
canonized Bible. That's shade.
we're gonna start with
I
something
gotta
that's
make
like,
it funny because it's a lot.
period. It is a lot.
It's a
It
lot.
really is, like, and again, it's almost overwhelmingly so.
You
Like,
gotta laugh to keep
so,
from crying at this point.
because
Like
reality,
that's
at
where we
this point,
are at this
reality
point,
is just
honestly.
scarier than fantasy. Like,
It
that's where we
literally
are.
is.
Reality is scarier than fantasy right now.
If you're not
Very
worried, I'm
obviously,
worried.
period. And we all should be worried. We all should be really concerned about a document like this becoming law, or anything from this being turned into a law, because, okay, so let's start with abortion. Obviously,
Yeah.
they don't say that
And birth
they want to
control.
ban. They're not saying that they want to ban abortion and birth control. They are saying that they want to completely, almost eliminate the typical resources that are provided to
Yes.
facilities that provide abortions and that provide contraception, um, which is wild. Which is wild. I mean, just starting at
They're like, oh, we're not gonna
managing,
ban it. We're just not gonna give you access to
just not
it.
going to give you access and not going to give you the money for it. So you have to figure it out. And they want
Right.
to eliminate, because there's a document, I found it, and I might post it on the 5011 social so you all can see it. But it breaks down the difference between what DT is saying he wants to do, what Project 2025 is implementing, and why they're similar, because they're saying it different ways. They're saying different
Yeah.
ways. They're saying, oh, we're not the same thing. He wants to do this and we
Intentionally.
want to do that. It's very intentional. But if you look at the common thread, the common denominator, for my Demon Slayer fans out there, if you follow the thread and you see it, you be like, oh, that neck is done. Like, that is what's happening here. Is they're starting with things like abortion rights. That's probably one of
Mhm.
the first things they implement. Almost like I would almost bet money on it. Like,
Yeah.
they're going to try and eliminate every
Roe v.
form
Wade was
of.
the baby step. It was like
It was a
okay,
baby
we can
step.
kind of do
We're
this.
just letting
And
you
the
know.
Supreme Court has been doing some wild shit lately.
Speaking,
They've been
I'm
doing some
glad you
wild.
brought that up, because that's another thing that's happening right now that is a really big political conversation. Is the Supreme Court, right before Biden stepped down, there was some legislation and conversation to come up about limiting their terms and not having them serve for life anymore because of the idea that a president can get in and completely change the flow of all judicial history with just the addition of a few people as justices retire or pass. Like what 45 did to the Supreme Court, we felt every effect of since. And it will only
Yep.
get worse. It will only
Yep.
get worse because they're trying to keep it that Supreme Court justices still serve for life. We should not have any social servant or public servant or any person who's in a role that's elected serve for life. They should be elected
And
every
it's
time.
crazy because the president can't even do that.
President
So
can't be more than
why?
2. So why do we have Supreme Court justices serving for 40 years?
And it's like the crazy thing is like we're
Clarence
seeing
Thomas
the
should have been
effect, like
gone.
literally the effects of what he did during his presidency is allowing him to run again. Because if he
Hmm.
didn't do what he did, let's be clear, he's a felon. He should not be on
He
the
should not be
ballot.
able to run at all.
Period. But they sat up there and said, "Oh well, there are certain things that they have immunities to." And since
Hmm.
when?
Hmm.
Clinton
Loopholes.
couldn't even get no head, and they was about to get him up out of there. But we can do all of the all. I'm just saying. They impeached him. I'm just saying
Hmm.
they
They did.
did, and he really didn't do
He
nothing to the
didn't
country.
resign. He didn't
He
resign
just
though.
violated Hillary. You know what I'm saying? He didn't really do nothing to the people, just
Publicly.
Hillary. But
That's what they did.
this man on the other hand, is a
Hmm.
danger to the people. Okay,
Legitimate
he
danger to
committed
the
them.
people.
The people around him got convicted, but he did. If the people
Hmm.
around him are guilty, y'all saying he guilty, y'all just saying, oh no, but he got certain immunity.
The law is
My
damn near
thing
guilty by
is,
association.
since he got certain immunities, I feel like Biden shouldn't have stepped down. He should have used his immunities and did some things. That's what they're doing. Just saying, let's level the playing field then. Because that's what we're doing.
Man, how I
Just
wish it
saying.
worked that way. Man, how I
I
wish it
know.
worked that way.
But it's
But
like,
it
let's do that. And then, let's just do what we want. They do what they want. Let's do what we want. Why we can't do what we want? They're not playing fair.
it's
We're
it's
over
it's
bringing
it's
knives to
wild.
gunfight.
And that's the big thing about it is like we are in such a volatile time right now politically that
Yeah.
most people don't even realize it. They don't realize how wild the time is right now and how crazy the political environment is because they're asleep and they're not paying attention. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Project 2025 continues. Listen to this. So one of the big goals of Project 2025 is to increase executive power. It is to throw off the balance of checks and balances. We have checks and
Which they
balances in
already
place
started with the
between
immunities.
exactly. Well,
They already started with
they've
that.
had presidential immunity. Just very rarely have they very rarely have they used it because very rarely have we ever had a president be a convicted felon. That's never happened. We've never had to have a president use his presidential immunity like this because we've never had a criminal in the White House. Not at least that we've known,
And get away with it.
and get away with it publicly, very
If he was
obviously,
let's be clear though, if he was a Democrat, he wouldn't be on the ballot.
at all.
They would have got him out of there.
Lord,
There's no
don't
way.
let him be a black man or a woman. He would
Oh
definitely not
no.
be. He'd be in prison.
If you're a woman, you can't even get an email.
Right. Wow.
Can't even get an
Um,
email.
but it's crazy because the goal here is to throw off the checks and balances. It's to make it so that the president, the executive branch, has so much more power than it's ever had. They have all forms of legislation and ideas to
Mm.
increase the president's power. And if you're not paying attention, if you're not listening with your third eye, you do not understand that what we're talking about here is dictatorship. What you don't understand here is if we throw off the balance of power to where everyone answers to the one
We will
man,
not be in a democracy
it won't be a
anymore.
democracy anymore. We will be past democracy. And that's what people are failing to understand because of the language of increased executive power. Yes, the president should have more power and do more. Hang on. The president is just like the queen. They are almost figureheads. His power is to veto. That is literally the power that he gets. Other than that, he
And
represents
he
this
got the
country
finger on the
and
button.
represents democracy. And that's finger on the button, commander in chief. He wears numerous hats, but the
Exactly.
president is essentially the figurehead of this country,
Exactly. He's
the
like the
leader
brand
of the free
ambassador.
world. They are like the face of democracy for the world, not
Yes.
just for the U.S., but for the world. The world looks
Yes.
to the American president, just like the world looks to the English monarch. because they are technically the highest
Yeah.
ranking official in the world. The president comes subject to the queen. And see, people don't, we're not, this is not a hierarchy
Because they don't
episode,
know the
y'all.
history of
They
how
don't know
we
the
even got
history.
here. Because the people been saying it's their country for so long, they forgot that they was over there in her country first before they came over here and decided to make their own.
Hmm.
Just decided to claim
To
their
steal the
own.
land and to call it something else. Like, so they want to increase executive power, really throwing off the balance of what makes our democracy our democracy. Obviously, they want to reduce LGBTQIA community protections. They want to remove trans military individuals from the armed forces. They want to decrease what we have as this idea of free trade that we have. They want to decrease that quite a bit. They want to have more control over what comes in, what goes out, and the tariffs on it. They say they're doing this for the benefit of the people, so they can charge higher tariffs, which cause us to make more money, but we're not getting that money.
I was gonna say, well, who
We're not
causes
getting that
who to
money.
make more money is the
they
question.
they talk about this idea of lessening taxes for all people, not just for the top
Hmm.
1% as they typically done, but for all people. And we know that that's typically a lie because that's not the first time we've heard lower taxes.
Exactly.
Um,
And
they
that's
want
why the
to.
people
Mhm.
that look like us claim they voted for him the first time because he's a smart businessman. It was lowering taxes for the
He's
girls
not
and
a
all that.
smart businessman. He's never been a smart businessman. He's been popular, and his
He's been
face has been.
popular.
He's been popular. That's been it.
And he's been popular, polarizing, and he's failed at a lot of businesses. That's about it.
And that's
That's
about it.
about it.
I mean, oof, goodness, I could
I
go
cannot believe we
in.
went from The Apprentice to here. Like, how did we get here? Like, it's sad.
I think it all started off as a joke.
Like a
Because I
video
don't think,
game.
I really feel it all started off as a joke for him. And here we are,
Mm.
10 years
Here we
later.
are.
Is it
This
10?
is like the longest, least funniest joke I've ever been a part of. Just saying.
Yeah, they want to restructure law enforcement agencies to,
We know what that means.
right, to align them, to essentially give them more power. And they want to align law enforcement more with the executive branch, and they want to eliminate the FBI, and they want to eliminate the
No.
Department of Homeland Security,
Who keeps
and
the people in check that be needed to be checked.
and they want to eliminate the Department of Education,
Which
and
is
they
why would you do that?
mhm, and
Like,
they want to
it's like the
eliminate the
more you get
Department of
into it,
Justice,
you're gonna get like,
and they want to eliminate the Department of Justice. This is a dictatorial setup, people. Just because it
yes,
won't look like Benito Mussolini in Italy, just because it won't look like Adolf in
it'll feel
Germany,
like
it
something.
will be the same thing. That's exactly what they are defining here. They want to do a mass deportation of illegal immigrants. If you are not born here, we're kicking you out immediately. Um, they want to eliminate any type of federal funding that goes to
Are
schools.
therefore like if they come from people who aren't from here, technically aren't they immigrants? So like, are they leaving too?
Oh, absolutely not. You know that's not happening. They want to eliminate funding for schools that require vaccinations um, because they feel that that's un-American. There's this really interesting thing that they want to do that I think people are not really paying attention to and maybe just don't fully understand. And I had to watch a few videos and read a few articles to really get a better grasp on it. But there's this idea of with federal workers, people who work for the government, there's two classifications. They're merit-based federal workers. This is
Oh yeah.
the majority of them. These are people who, I mean, it's about 2 million of them. They work for the government and they are in roles and careers that they've kind of earned and climbed their way up a
Mhm.
certain particular kind of way. It's more like the
Yeah.
traditional work trajectory type of journey for people to become merit-based federal employees. And then there are at-will employees, which under their classification would be Schedule F. And these are the 4,000 or so people who are typically elected into their role, or they serve because they were not really elected. It's more like they're
Like
appointed into their
appointed.
role. Yeah, they're appointed into their role. Typically, this includes people who are like in maybe, for an example, this was the example they gave, and this is what they're trying to do to these people, because they're trying to reclassify so that it's a lot easier to get rid of people. For example, if you have an FDA scientist who is doing research and has the funding and has the power and the popularity and what it takes to do the research and look into women's reproductive rights and find better ways to create contraception or better ways to help, maybe to treat fibroids. They're doing this type of research through the federal government. With this new classification, they could be like, no, that's not what we want you
Nah, I'm
doing.
good.
You're fired. We're going to have somebody else come in, and this person
Because
is
they
going to
want
come in.
everybody to be at will, right?
They want
Is
everybody to be at
basically what
will.
they want
They
it to
want them to
be.
go from being merit-based to being at will, so that anyone who doesn't align with what it is they want accomplished and done, they'll get rid of them and replace them with someone who does. And
Yep.
they'll legally be allowed to. And if
Yep.
that becomes law, that is one of the most dangerous things that could happen, because you're talking about people who work for the federal government. Like, that's what makes the machine run. Yes, we do too, because
Mhm.
we are the economy and we're the human capital, but it's also the people who actually work and do the work of the federal government. And
Yep.
having that type of control over people just because of a different opinion, again, is not a democracy.
Yeah.
There's more, guys. They want to eradicate Title I status for schools. And this is one of the most, again, another dangerous component of this. Title I schools are schools that typically are in lower income areas where the majority, or typically the majority or all of their students are low income. And with the eradication of Title I, we're talking about fewer resources for low income schools. So the free college prep that they get in these types of schools wouldn't be happening. Free and reduced lunch programs would be eliminated. After school extracurricular programs that are funded by the government or funded by the school could be eliminated. That is extremely dangerous. That is extremely dangerous, because there's so many of our jewels in this country who come out of lower income households and schools, and it's not a defining, it's an aspect of their journey, but it's not a defining trait of who they become.
Yeah.
And what's wild is many times it's because of a program like that of Freedom Writers, or because
Mhm.
of an after school care type of thing, or because of free lunch that they're able to
That's
get a
why
hot
I got
meal
to
every
see so
day.
much stuff.
It's
Got
because
to
of
see
those
a lot
things,
through school.
because of that, and because of the funding that they get from the government, it's made possible. But when you don't have that government funding, when you don't have that, what happens? Those programs are eliminated. What happens? Those kids are not provided those experiences. They're not provided the opportunity to see more, do more, or even just have a hot meal each day.
Mhm.
It's wild, because I saw a tweet and they were saying, no, it wasn't a tweet, it was a picture. And I actually think I might have retweeted it or reposted it on Facebook or something. But it was something like, they were talking about in Louisiana, there was legislation for the Ten Commandments to be posted in every school. And they said, if you're telling me that the Ten Commandments should be posted every school, but you want to eliminate free lunch, we don't worship the same Jesus. We don't worship the same God. There's no way we worship the same God. And that is the truth of the matter. That is the truth of the matter, is even when you get to the religious component that is overarching on this project
Yeah.
2025, and I think gives religion and faith such a bad name, because this is not what it's about. It's about love. It's about unity. It's about community. And this is the opposite of that. This is about control. Like, they're talking about just doing all of these wild things, privatizing healthcare, eliminating the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare, eliminating government-led healthcare initiatives, where the government, funds getting, like, decreasing VA benefits. Like, I mean, it's wild, because there's
Mhm.
so many things in this It's so long.
You
It's
know what
so
it is?
long.
It's almost like it's like their second run at it. It's like, okay, because it's like they tried it the first time with the first person. And it's almost like they got to kind of clean it up, readjust,
Mm-hmm.
replan. Because you're not going to sit here and tell me that they haven't been planning this since then. Like, let's
System.
be clear. They've
Period.
been planning, they've been readjusting as things have been occurring in history and all of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're always generations ahead. They're always thinking so far ahead. That's why this was already a thing and it's already 30 chapters. Like, they've
Period.
been planning this, they've been working on this. And that's what's the most dangerous part about it is people don't understand. Like, they are already, and first of all, if you're not tapped in, they're already steps ahead of you, period. Because
Period.
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know where you are. I don't know why you're not aware of what's going on, but I need you to be. But it's like, even if you are, they've been planning and they're always generations ahead of us. And they have backup plans for the plans. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's always, and a lot of times what people don't understand is like, the plan is the plan. The people who they put as the face, they're interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
They can always just get the plan, keep the plan going with the next person.
With the
If
next
it's not
person.
him,
Mm-hmm.
it would be somebody else. You know what I'm saying? They always have a person that they can put in that spot that's gonna
Always.
do. You know what I mean? And that's what makes
Always.
all of this so dangerous. But then it's like with the news that we got today, it's just I don't know. I appreciate your optimism. I will say that
Mm-hmm.
you had a much better outlook on all this than I did. Because oh my goodness.
Let's talk about it because, we have now discussed the dangers of Project 2025, what really is some of what is on the line here, what's at stake with this election. But we also need to look at the candidate. Like, what Joe Biden did have going for him was the name recognition, was the fact that we've seen him as a politician and we've seen him as a man and we've seen him, for the past decade, 2 decades
And the people
plus,
like him.
and the people like him. He was likable. The difference is we haven't seen Kamala Harris the same way. We haven't seen,
We've barely seen her at all.
we barely, and what's wild about it, what's wild is like she has been working, like, because she has accomplished
Yeah.
so much since they've come. She's accomplished, in my opinion, more than Joe has since they've stepped into the White House. And so she's accomplished so much, but in accomplishing so much, she has no relationship with the public.
And she doesn't
None.
have good PR either because it's like we should at least be seeing her accomplishing so much.
Hmm.
We're not even seeing it. You know what I'm saying?
we,
We're
we
not
catch a
seeing
quick
enough
conversation
of
every
her
now and then. Like
every
we
now
saw
and
her at the BET Awards. I think Sister Girl was on Sesame Street.
she
Um,
was on Married to Medicine.
she was on Married to Medicine. She makes her little
Video
pop
call.
ups. Like she makes her little pop ups here and there, and I think that's cute. But we are now in an era and a time where what she has to
It's
do
more than
next
that.
has to look completely different than anything she's done. She needs to get the glam squad. She needs to pull out these Olivia Pope suits. She needs to outdress Michelle Obama. She needs to come out and do the damn thing. And she needs to show herself as a woman, as a person, as a leader, as a force to be reckoned with. Because in my opinion, I do believe that Kamala Harris has the potential to be the anti-Trump. I think that she is the exact opposite of so much of him that it
Hmm.
will give him that bit of a people who just don't like Trump will vote for her just by default, which is great because I think that they were really like there were some people who were really stuck like I don't really like Joe like that either, and they might have a bit more of a chance with her. But I think what's really on the line when it comes to what her campaign needs to look like is they need to spend a lot of time making her relatable. They need to spend a lot of time because her career speaks for itself.
Yeah.
She's like I said, she's got the resume. Pages long.
She's good on
Pages
paper.
long. She's fantastic on paper. We need to know who you are in real life.
Yeah. And the thing about it is the tricky thing that is going to be for her is because we haven't seen much of her, we haven't really got to know her, which is kind of sad because, like, sis, you've been there for 4 years, and while yes, you were doing things, your PR team dropped the ball. Like
Mm-hmm.
they left her hanging. When I tell you, we saw Michelle Obama more than we saw Barack Obama during
Mm-hmm.
both terms.
Mm-hmm.
Both terms, like
Mm-hmm.
she was it is like I thought that that's what it was going to be like. We were going to see her everywhere, or even like when Hillary was VP, yeah, she was out and about, but they made sure that there was a camera there capturing her, whatever country she was in, whoever hand she was shaking, we saw it. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like we've gotten that with her, and the thing about it is like she's going to have to relate to everybody now. Whereas she had 4 years where she could have been working on each demographic. Now you're going to have to relate to everybody. And I think one of the problems she's going to come across is kind of what Obama came across when he was running is like with the black community, their expectation is for it to be a very pro-black campaign,
Hmm.
but I don't think we're gonna get that, and I think some people are gonna feel a way about that because
I
honestly,
agree.
the black part is the part that she's gonna have to not lean into so much.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? To an extent, she's gonna have to show up in our spaces so that she's speaking with us and we get to know her. But as a broad campaign, that's the one thing she's probably shouldn't lean on because we're in
Hmm.
America. Let's be real. Let's
Hmm.
keep it real.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of people. It's like it's a lot of people who how they felt about Hillary. They feel like this country in general, the majority of people feel like a woman just couldn't do it. A lot of people feel that way, and that's how they felt about Hillary. It was nothing about whether she could do it. They just like, oh, a woman can't run the country. No, and so I feel like she's gonna have that aspect of it. I feel like a lot of the people who were willing to vote for Joe Biden because of because she's a black woman, so we're gonna lose some of those people
Yeah.
because she's a black woman.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just the
Period.
reality of the
It is
situation.
the reality.
And
Yeah.
I think to an extent, a little bit, she has, well, not even a little bit, a lot of it. She has an uphill battle. Like it's
Oh,
and
for
that's why
sure.
it's like this campaign is going to have to be immaculate,
Hmm.
and we need to see you every single day because Trump been campaigning all the 4 years that y'all was.
Period. All 4 years.
He's been letting the
All
people know
four
I'm coming
years.
back.
Hmm.
He's been campaigning since he lost.
He
You know
done led the people with the
what I'm saying?
pitchforks and
Like
everything.
he's been
Yeah.
waiting for
It's
this moment, and it's
yeah.
like he had all of this time, whether it's good or bad publicity. His name is everywhere, his face is everywhere. You're always hearing about something, whether it's good or bad that he's been doing. With the lawsuit that was going on, he was everywhere, good or bad. With
Hmm.
her, we ain't seen you in 4 years. Like
And
we
this is the
been
thing about
ready to
it.
see
This
you.
is the thing about it too, is something I'm just now remembering, but it makes sense. I can explain why we haven't seen her. I can now, because it's like I said, I had to come back to the remembrance. I got it, y'all. I got it. Typically, the vice president doesn't do more work than the president. They're the one who travels more. They're the one who is always on the go. They're in more meetings typically. They're having to do more of that on the ground work. And because they're typically doing more work, I just thought about it. We rarely saw Joe Biden when he was vice president. Many times when we did see
I feel
him,
like we
he
saw.
was we didn't see him. We didn't see him that much. I did not remember seeing Joe Biden that much at all during Obama.
I feel like
And I know we
I
saw
saw him
him,
more than her.
maybe more, but her list is also twice as long as his and what she got accomplished. And I think what's about to happen now is because Joe is about to take a step back to allow her to shine, this is the opportunity. Like, and I just have hope that she's going to step up to the challenge. I have hope that we might actually get some of the things that are going to make this campaign really shine because she's going
Hmm.
to have an opportunity to just focus on being Kamala and being in front of the people and talking to the people and sharing her ideas with people and sharing her thoughts and letting them know where she stands on things, especially now that she spent 4 years working in the White House, like 4 years doing the work that she's just going to do an elevated version of. It's
Yeah.
different. It's different because although Trump has been president, and I really hate saying his name, oh, it just
You
exasperates me. It just drains. It drains soul essence. But
can say Cheeto.
him, that man,
Him.
but
Ear
because
bandage. You can say ear bandage.
because of DJT having been president, some people thought, oh, he's got the experience. No, he does not have the
He
experience.
did.
He didn't listen
He
to his
never
advisors
did.
who knew more than he did. Like legit, this woman has credentials, and I think her credibility is going to really show up in the debates. That's what I can't wait to see
That's what
because
I'm like.
she's
The
going to
debates are
eat.
gonna be, and when it's gonna have to be one of those things where it's like so good that she makes him look bad. Like
She has
that's
to make him look
how
bad. She
good
has to
it's
make him look
gonna
dumb.
have to be.
She has to make
She
him look
has
as dumb as
to make
possible.
him look bad. She needs to make him look like he has no like because we know he ain't got no clue, but
Hmm.
he won.
Hmm.
We can't front. He won before. So it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a clue. And that's why it's like as good as she is on paper, the reality is, especially in 2024, where a lot of the newer voters are on their phones, their
Hmm.
tablets, their social medias, we're not seeing her there.
Yeah.
If we were seeing her there, if we were getting video of, oh, she's over here in this place doing this, or a picture of her over here signing this, like, it's not hard. It's not, you ain't
Hmm.
gotta do much. You could have just been dropping little breadcrumbs throughout. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's gonna be the determining factor for her,
Hmm.
because he was on the socials, so he's already got the Gen Zs and the younger voters like that are on that type of time. He's
Familiar with
already
him,
got
yeah.
them hook, line, and sinker. They are all in the Instagram comments all the time,
Hmm.
harassing the folks, blasting the folks. We see them
Hmm.
ever. They're all over
All the
Twitter.
time,
We
yeah.
know they out there. She's gonna have to create her
That same
own
base.
space of those people. She's gonna have to do it. She's gonna have to do it better than him
And
because
I
he's
think
good
she,
at
I
it.
really think
Unfortunately.
I really think she has the potential to do that because there's just, to me, there's nothing more fabulous than a black woman. Especially
Yeah. Oh, I wish Olivia
it's
Pope was a real
diction.
person.
You know, it's how things are said. It's how they show up into a space. It's how they command. It's connection. It's comfort. All of that being wrapped into this bow. Like I think that if she plays this right, I'll tell you one thing, two things. If she plays this right, especially on the social media component, which I think that there's a chance, she plays this right, she could not only win the election, but she could win the hearts of the people. Be really
Yeah.
important in being a president. It's keeping the people kind of happy with you to a certain degree, and keeping the support of the public because that goes a long way in either having to share difficult news, in having to make difficult decisions, in having to bring about new
Hmm.
legislation, and hearing what the people want and what the people need when they travel, when they do these things. She's about to get a lot of information thrown at her, and as a lawyer, I think she's going to handle that component of the information well. The statistics, the quantitative research. I think she's going to do very well with that. I think what we're talking about is truly the qualitative, the abstract, the heartwarming side of her has to show up. Second thing this is something I really, really want to see. This would do it for me is reading or hearing that maybe Kerry Washington hosted a campaign event with her and that they just had a lovely kiki talking to the people about the things that are going on. Hearing that Viola Davis is at one of her rallies and is talking about why it's so important to get out there and to vote. Hearing her come to Atlanta and have a rally with Killer Mike or have a sit down
Or
on a
Stacey
podcast
Abrams.
or even absolutely Stacey Abrams because I think honestly both they both represent two of the really great demographics of black Georgia, black Atlanta, black
Hmm.
South. We've got the prim, we've got the educated,
Yeah.
the taking this route, but we've also got the street side of us. And that's not me throwing any disrespect to him because he represents the street,
Yeah.
like our street people, like our people, like not
Hmm.
those just in corporate roles and corporate rooms, those who are dealing with the day to
The
day
people.
effects, the people. Like, so I think her having a conversation in Atlanta with the two of them, like, I think what we need to see, definitely she needs to lean into that legal side in that broad sense. But when she's communicating with our community, when she's communicating with Gen Z, it has to be with those individuals that have been vetted by our community, that we know are the ones who have our best interest because we relate, we're on the same wavelength when it comes to issues, showing up on Amanda Seals' podcast. Like, those are the types of things I want to see from her.
Yeah. No,
That would
I
just
feel
do it
you
for
on
me.
that one.
Jamel Hill's podcast, like because honestly, that would be one of if she were to go on Unbothered by Jamel
She
Hill
needs to go everywhere, honestly.
everywhere.
Go.
But I'm
She
telling you,
needs to,
that's one of the number one podcasts for black podcast listeners. She's won tons of awards, but the last time that there was a major election, she had them all there. I think Kamala's been there before. I think Joe's been there. I think Pete Buttigieg was there. So many of them have shown up at Jamel Hill's podcast, and I think that if that podcast is still on, Kamala Harris needs to be back there for a special election episode, and they need to have a conversation about what's going on
Mhm.
because Jamel Hill is one of the fantastic, most fantastic interviewers out there right now. The work that she does on that podcast, honey, I'm gonna tell you, Mrs. Jamel Hill be inviting the folks in and getting it together. But I just think that seeing more from her as she's really thrown into the spotlight is definitely going to happen. I think that she's got a really good chance of rocking out and doing it well. I just think that she needs
It
to
has to be
remember
genuine.
it has to be
Like
genuine, has to be
we have
authentic.
to it has to be authentic because people are gonna
They're
know
gonna know.
if it's not. And I think too at this point, because on the other side, they feel like he's so authentic, she's gonna have right, right.
Because he's so real.
He's just saying what they want to hear, which
Mm-hmm.
is crazy to like he and it's so crazy because I remember the first time when he ran and I remember them playing back that interview of him years prior saying
Yes.
what he was gonna do.
Yes.
It's
I was thinking about that. Yes, he said it. He said because
but
Republicans are
they feel
stupid.
like
He said y'all were stupid and that he would run as a Republican because he would
and
be
he
able to
did
fool
it.
y'all. And he did it.
He did it. He did it. He did it. Like, and that's the crazy part. And let's be clear. The second time he really almost did it again. We were nervous. We were nervous.
That was a nail
They
biter.
counted Georgia like 62 times.
Right. There's
We were
another
nervous.
recount in Georgia.
We were all on pins and needles
Mm-hmm.
waiting to see what was going to happen, which I feel like it can't go that way for her. It has to be undeniable. I feel like it has to be one of those ones where it's like, you got to get the places.
Landslide.
You got to get them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know everything about politics and running no campaign. I'm not a campaign manager. I don't know all the details of what she needs to do, but I know she needs to do them all
She needs to do
and
all of
better than
them.
him.
And her running mate is
She needs
very
to be
important.
and it sucks, but she's had practice at this being a black woman as a lawyer. I'm sure working in corporate America, she's had practice at having to be literally the best out
All
of
the time.
everybody, the
Mm-hmm.
undeniable best out of everybody at all
Mm-hmm.
times to even get to where she is now. So it's like, because I ain't gonna lie, she wasn't really on my radar prior to her becoming vice president. Not gonna lie,
Mine neither.
out of nowhere.
Well,
Because
when she was in the candidate pool for the Democratic nomination against Joe and all them folk, that's when I started reading more about her. And I started
hmm
when I saw her in that candidate pool, I was like, oh, okay, let me look into this lady. When she became vice presidential candidate, I was like, okay, I didn't call it, but I like this. This is different. This is
I
definitely
definitely
different to
think
the
she's
ears.
gonna need. She's also I definitely and I'm gonna be the one to say it. I don't care because y'all know I'm gonna keep it real. She's gonna need a very likable cis het white man standing next to her as VP because that's the only way we're gonna get those people who feel the way they feel about women
Mm-hmm.
and the way they feel about black women. That's the only way we're gonna get them on us. It's the facts. I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep it
No,
all
I mean,
the
I
way
don't
real.
think that you're wrong. I think that there are a couple exceptions out there. Like if she were to go with a man that's not heterosexual, Pete Buttigieg could maybe work. He's so likable. He's so likable. So many people loved him when he ran. Even though he did have to drop out that race because he was about to get mollywopped. So a lot of people did like Pete Buttigieg. I think he's got a possibility. In reality, what I heard, and I can't remember his name right now. There is a candidate out there that people are thinking has a strong chance of being her running mate, and I want to say he's Jewish. And I honestly believe that could be one of the best political decisions right there. I'm not saying it as someone coming from just a sole racial place, but what I think is important to understand about how things run, not
It's
just in
still
this country,
politics.
but
You
in this
have to play
world, the
politics.
politics of it is that the Jewish community is down for theirs, honey. Always.
And they get things
You want to
done.
talk about unity, unification?
They'll
They
get
get
you
it
up out of there.
out of there. Don't you dare say anything
Ain't
anti-Semitic.
nothing
Nothing. Done. Show pulled. Canceled. No job.
about was scared to even say this. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I do think that her running mate is going to it's going to put I think she really needs to pick someone popular. In a perfect world,
Yeah.
in a perfect world, I would have loved to see her run with someone like AOC. Like I would have loved to see that in a perfect world. That will never happen because a woman running for president with a woman vice presidential candidate we might see that in our
Child,
lifetime, but we would have to win this election
maybe
in order for us to see
we
that,
would
we'd have to
have
win
to
this
win.
election. So if you ever
Wait,
want to see that in the White House, make sure this election is not won by the
yeah.
Cheeto.
And really, the reason why I say that too isn't even necessarily just because of race, but it's like in order to grab, because she's gonna have to pull voters
hmm
from him.
From
That's the
him.
reality. She's gonna have to
hmm
take some of his voters. And in order for her to do that, she's gonna have to have somebody that they can look at and see themselves. You know what I'm saying? And most of the people over there, they don't look like her or you or me.
Period. Period.
And that's just the reality of where we at with it. And I feel like it is such an inopportune time. Like, why you wait so late to say that? Like, what? They had already really been pressing your buttons and trying to get you to just not even. You could have just been did this. You didn't waited so late. My girl got how many months? Why
The
you
thing
waited so
about
late
it
to say
is, I was saying this to someone today because I had a very interesting conversation with a few people about this earlier as well. But everything that happens politically to me is political theater. I don't see it as anything other than
that?
political
Yeah,
theater.
this is
And
crazy.
what's happening right now is something that I think they all knew was already going to happen. I'm sure that she didn't just find out today that Joe was going to
Yes,
step
I feel
down.
that way too.
Now, he might have
Yeah, I think they've been
decided
planning this.
today, but I do think that this has been in the works for a second because I think that I think he knew at some point that even if he won the next election, being president for another 4 years, he probably would not survive that. I think that
If
not
nothing
being
else, I
president, he
think
might
that
live another
debate.
10 years,
Yeah, that's a fact.
but
But
president,
I
he might
think
have made
too,
100 days.
I think that debate too was probably the moment where they started to take it serious of like, okay, we
Oh,
need
for
to make
sure.
sure
Oh, it
you
was
got
definitely the moment.
your ducks in a row so you can swoop in because
It was definitely the
you
moment.
know because they started turning on him after that.
They
Like
did. They
people
all
started,
did.
and then the
hmm
COVID announcement, it was just like they really started jumping like just like they
Yeah,
already
all
was
of that.
calling him old, and it's like it's really he just old. Like it's just he old.
He
The other
old.
dude old too, to be honest. But you know, it's just the reality. People age differently. He old.
The reality is we need younger presidential candidates. Like,
Yeah.
we need to stop electing 80-year-old white men. It's so tired. It's so
The
tired.
time has come and gone.
Like,
Let it go.
we need to see more 40-year-olds in the White House. Like,
And it's like, go ahead.
the last times that we've had 40-year-olds in the White House, I mean, those were both monumental presidencies, Barack
And
Obama and
they
JFK.
got Buddy up. I was gonna say they got JK up.
And
They say you a
JFK, I
little too
think
young, too late for
that was probably the realest president we've ever had is JFK. The
and that's the
realest.
problem.
And that's the problem.
That was the problem.
That was the problem.
And that's
Realest
the
president
part
we
of
ever had.
it that's like it's like a part of me is still that we in America and I know for a fact they're gonna do anything they can do.
hmm
And it's like it's not enough that she's black, she's also a woman. And they didn't want the woman first. They did everything they could do the first time with the
hmm
woman tried to get up in there. They tried to nitpick every little thing. And it's like that's why I'm like a part of me knows not to put my faith in this country.
Oh, period.
Because look at it.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Everybody that know me knows I hate it here. Let's just be honest. If she had a way to just be like, boop, boop, next time, y'all know I've been plotting my way to Canada for years, even though they got their own problems too.
That's my,
But it's
you
like,
can miss me with the Canadas.
yeah, but it's like a part of me knows because I have sense, I know that she would be a good candidate.
hmm
However, I am very well aware that I am surrounded by people who don't have much sense. And that's why Buddy won the first time.
hmm
That's like the reality is we didn't think it was gonna happen the first time. Everybody with some sense was like, that's not gonna happen. There's no way. And it did.
And there were a lot of people with
Because
sense
we all
who,
thought we were
because they
gonna
were
get
like,
our
it's
first
not going to
female
happen,
president.
didn't go out and vote. Like, that's the reality of the
That is
situation is we
also
have
true.
to
They voted
still
for
vote.
Harambe.
Like that you still have to get out and vote because at the end of the day, we can choose to allow the overwhelming feeling of dread to just completely wrap us up, because this is real deal. Like, I don't think enough people are grasping how serious this is. When you start taking rights away and giving one person more and more and more power, you get into a really dangerous predicament, because then
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer a democracy. So this is not to fearmonger. This is not to get y'all scared.
No.
This is to really
We
bring
need to be
awareness. You
aware.
need to be aware. So please get out, research Project 2025. Get out and research what Kamala Harris has done. And, for your own sake, research what Donald Trump has done as well. Get out there and see what they have done, and prepare yourself for this election, like, because the next few months, as we prepare for candidates, we're definitely going to keep talking about it. This is not going to be the last time we talk about our political environment
No.
and our world. We've been
No.
reviewing the things and talking about the things, but it just came a point in time where we had to have this
We
conversation,
had to have a
because
real conversation.
we
Getting
are in
real.
the real right now. Like, shit has got hit the fan so hard. It's a
You
mess.
know how like every random numeral year they'll just be like, this is the end of the world. If they said that it was coming up this time, I'm
I believe it. I
like,
believe it. I believe it. You know?
when they say in 2012, when they say Y2K, I didn't really give it. But if they said it now,
I'm like,
you
yeah. Y'all got a
you're
y'all
about
got an
right about
exact
that
day
to
on that?
happen.
You have an exact day?
All I know is I am mentally prepared that if I need to get me a high ranking alien and get me and my baby on a ship up out of here, that is what I'm gonna do.
What's got to be done will be done.
If I gotta go make Superman, that's just what I'm gonna do. I'm going and making Kal-El if that's just what I got.
If what's got to be done will be done.
I
I
will
love it.
secure the space bag if
The
I need
space
to.
bag, yes. Well, y'all, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, for just listening to our conversation, y'all. And again, do your research. Get out there. Make sure you're registered to vote. 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 Vote.
Vote,
Okay.
do your Googles,
Please do your Googles and vote.
be
We want to
safe.
thank you so much. We love you all, and we will see you all next week in another episode of the 50 Chronicles. Peace. Yes.